My name is Sally. 3 months ago, I witnessed a moment that would turn my professional world upside down. I was sitting at my workstation when my supervisor, Ms. Thompson, walked up behind me. In front of the entire department of 23 people, she declared that my year-long effort was nothing but worthless garbage. With a swift click, she deleted what she thought were just spreadsheets and meeting notes, but in reality, she was erasing the invisible foundation that held our company together. Just 30 seconds later, my phone rang. It was an offer of $500,000 a year from a new consulting firm, Aurora Consulting. That's when I realized she had handed me the perfect weapon for the most satisfying revenge I could have ever imagined. Before I tell you how watching her panic became the sweetest moment of my career, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe. Let me take you back to where it all started. I'm from a middle-class family. My parents were hard, working people. My father was a factory worker, a man of few words, but with a heart full of kindness. He taught me the value of hard work and integrity. My mother was a schoolteacher. She was warm-hearted and always encouraged me to follow my dreams. 18 months ago, I joined Crest Analytics as a client relationship coordinator. The job description seemed mundane: maintain communication records, schedule follow-ups, and track client satisfaction metrics. What they didn't tell me was that the company was losing clients at an alarming rate, and the previous person in my position had quit after just 4 months without notice. My supervisor, Ms. Thompson, was a no-nonsense woman in her late 40s. She came from a family of business executives. Her parents were strict, always emphasizing the importance of numbers and efficiency. From the very first day, she made it clear that she thought my role was an unnecessary expense. She believed that business relationships were purely transactional. Send invoices, deliver services, collect payments, and repeat. The idea that clients might want a real human connection was completely foreign to her. In the first few weeks, I noticed something. When I went through our client files, I found page after page of dry communication logs. They were like robot conversations, lacking any personality or warmth. It was as if no one in the company had ever bothered to learn anything personal about the clients who were paying us thousands of dollars every month. So I decided to do something different. I started treating our clients like real people. Mr. Harris, who owned a medium-sized software company, mentioned during a routine check-in call that his daughter was about to start college. I made a note of it. A month later, I followed up, asking how his daughter was settling in. He was so surprised that someone remembered. He spent half an hour talking to me about his daughter's excitement and his own pride. Yes. Green, who ran a fashion boutique, was celebrating her store's 10th anniversary. I sent her a personalized message, congratulating her on the milestone and asking about her future plans. She ended up scheduling an extra consultation, which brought in $15,000 in unexpected revenue. These weren't big gestures. I just listened when clients shared their lives, remembered what was important to them, and followed up in a way that showed I cared about their success beyond the money they paid us. Yes. Thompson never understood what I was doing. She would walk by my desk and see me typing what looked like casual conversation notes. I could feel her disapproval in the air. During our monthly reviews, she would flip through my activity reports with a frown. "Why are you spending so much time on calls? Efficiency metrics show you're not processing enough interactions per hour," she would say, tapping her pen on her clipboard. I tried to explain that longer conversations were building stronger relationships. Clients were specifically asking to work with me on new projects, and our client retention rate had improved by 35% since I started my personalized approach. But Ms. Thompson only cared about the numbers that fit her spreadsheet formulas. What she didn't realize was that I was building something far more valuable than efficient call logs. I was becoming the bridge between our company and the clients who kept us in business. Mr. Brown, who owned a chain of coffee shops, started calling me directly instead of going through the main number. He said he appreciated talking to someone who remembered his love for rare coffee beans and his plans to expand his business. Month after month, I watched our client satisfaction scores climb, but Ms. Thompson remained focused on efficiency metrics that missed the point. She was measuring how fast we could process interactions, while I was building the loyalty that would determine whether those interactions continued. The breaking point came during our annual strategic planning meeting. Our CEO, Mr. Johnson, was reviewing department performance. He mentioned that client retention had reached an all-time high. He specifically praised our relationship management approach and suggested expanding the personal touch strategy across other departments. I saw Ms. Thompson's expression change. The credit for the improved retention was going to what she considered my inefficient methods. After the meeting, she cornered me near the supply room. "I don't know what kind of show you're putting on," she said, her voice tight with anger. "This company succeeds on professional excellence, not chatting with clients like old friends." She assigned me to complete a comprehensive audit of all client interactions over the past year. She demanded detailed documentation of every communication, every follow-up note, and every relationship building effort I had made. It was clearly a punishment, hundreds of hours of bureaucratic work that would take me away from the relationship building that was driving our success. But I approached the audit with the same attention to detail as I did with client work. I created detailed records showing not only what communications had taken place, but how they had translated into business outcomes. I documented the referrals that Mr. Brown had generated, the additional services that Ms. Green had purchased after we discussed her business growth, and the early contract renewal that Mr. Harris had signed because he trusted our partnership. The finished audit was 55 pages of proof that personal attention to client relationships was directly responsible for over $220,000 in additional revenue. Every casual conversation about family events or business goals had strengthened business ties that our competitors couldn't replicate. I was proud of that audit. It represented a year of hard work and genuine connections that had transformed how our company interacted with our clients. So when Ms. Thompson called an all-hands department meeting on a Tuesday morning in late fall, I thought she was finally going to acknowledge the value of my approach. Instead, she had me display my audit files on the main conference room screen in front of everyone. Then she started tearing apart every personal note, every conversation detail, and every relationship building effort, claiming they were unprofessional boundary violations. "This is exactly the kind of inefficiency that undermines our service standards," she declared, scrolling through the months of careful documentation. "Personal chat has no place in business." I felt my face flush as 23 colleagues watched her destroy the work that had brought significant revenue to our company. She was presenting my greatest professional achievement as a cautionary tale. Then, she did something I never expected. She pulled up the file containing my complete audit database, with every client note, every relationship detail, and every conversation record that proved the value of personal attention. Her finger hovered over the delete button as she rambled on about professional standards. "This entire approach is garbage," she said, and then clicked delete. I watched a year of relationship building disappear from the screen. 55 pages of documented connections that had generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue were gone in a single vindictive moment. The conference room went completely silent as everyone processed what had just happened. Ms. Thompson turned away from the screen, looking satisfied, expecting me to accept the humiliation and start rebuilding my work according to her methods. But she made a crucial mistake. While she destroyed my documentation, she couldn't destroy the actual relationships I had built. The clients who trusted me, who called me directly, and who had shared their personal and business details with me. Those connections were in their hearts and minds, not in our computer files. Just as she was explaining her new efficiency protocols, my phone started buzzing. It was Aurora Consulting. I stepped out of the conference room to take the call, my hands still shaking from watching my work being deleted. "Sally," said the voice on the other end. "We've been watching what's been going on at Crest Analytics, and we want to talk." Aurora Consulting had been tracking our client retention improvements and knew I was the one responsible for the relationships that kept major accounts happy. They had been planning to approach me for months, but watching Ms. Thompson destroy my audit files convinced them the timing was perfect. They offered me $500,000 a year, plus equity participation and complete autonomy over client relationship strategies. We believe personal attention is the future of business consulting, and we want you to build that future with us, they said. More than double my current salary, working for people who valued exactly what MS. Thompson considered worthless inefficiency. The best part wasn't the money, though. They understood that client relationships were built on trust and personal connection, not database files. They weren't asking me to steal clients. They just pointed out that if clients preferred to work with someone who remembered their personal details, that was their choice. When I walked back into the conference room, MS. Thompson was still talking about professional efficiency. My former colleagues were looking at their hands or notebooks, clearly uncomfortable. She noticed me and paused. "Do you have questions about the new communication protocols?" she asked. I looked around the room at the people I had worked with for 18 months, at the blank screen where my audit had been, and then back at MS.
Thompson.
"Actually," I said, "I have something to announce." I took a deep breath and said, "I'm resigning from Crest Analytics, effective immediately. I'll be joining Aurora Consulting as their Director of Client Relations." The room went completely silent. You could hear the air conditioning humming and someone's pen clicking nervously. MS. Thompson's expression changed from smugness to confusion, then to panic. "You can't just quit in the middle of a meeting," she stammered. "There are protocols, notice requirements." I pulled out my phone to show her the contract offer. My employment agreement allows for immediate resignation in cases of a hostile work environment or professional misconduct. Having my work deleted in front of colleagues and being publicly humiliated qualifies on both counts. Mr. Johnson, who had been watching from the back of the room, stepped forward. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately," he said, but I was done with private discussions. MS. Thompson had chosen to humiliate me publicly, so she would face the consequences publicly. "There's nothing to discuss," I said, gathering my things. "My decision is final. I'll submit my resignation paperwork within the hour." As I walked towards the door, I could feel 23 pairs of eyes on me. Some of my colleagues looked shocked, some impressed, and a few seemed to be rethinking their own careers. Thompson called after me. "You're making a huge mistake. Aurora Consulting is a startup with no track record. You're throwing away job security for some fantasy about relationship building." I paused at the door and turned back. "We'll see which approach is more valuable," I said. Within 24 hours, I had cleaned out my desk, completed exit interviews, and started my new job at Aurora Consulting. Their office was smaller than Crest Analytics, but it was full of energy and a sense of innovation. In the weeks that followed, the natural consequences of MS. Thompson's actions started to unfold. I didn't reach out to any Crest Analytics clients. I just updated my professional profiles and continued being the person who had built authentic relationships. 3 days after I started at Aurora, Mr. Harris called my new office number. "Sally," he said, "I heard you've moved. I wanted to congratulate you and ask about your new company." We talked for an hour about his business needs, his daughter's college life, and his plans to expand his software company. By the end of the call, he had scheduled a consultation to transfer his account to Aurora. That same afternoon, MS. Green called. She said she wanted to work with someone who understood her business philosophy. "You're the first person who ever made me feel like my boutique mattered more than just the money," she said. "If you're offering the same personal attention at your new firm, I'm in." By the end of my first week at Aurora, I had received calls from 6 former Crest Analytics clients. They weren't coming to me because I had solicited them. They just preferred working with someone who treated them as individuals. Back at Crest Analytics, MS. Thompson was starting to realize what she had done. I heard through mutual contacts that she was panicking. She tried to reach out to major clients for routine check-ins, but many of them were no longer interested in continuing their contracts. When she called Mr. Harris to schedule a quarterly review, he politely told her he was exploring other options and wouldn't be renewing his agreement. When she contacted MS. Green about upcoming projects, MS. Green said she had found a consulting partner who better understood her values. One by one, the clients I had spent a year building relationships with were choosing to work with me at Aurora. MS. Thompson had believed that client loyalty was tied to Crest Analytics brand and service quality. She was learning that it was actually tied to the personal connections that made clients feel valued. 3 weeks after I left, Mr. Brown called to tell me what had happened when Ms. Thompson called him. She argued with me when I told her I was following you to Aurora because I valued our personal connection, he said. She said professional relationships should be based on service quality, not chatting about coffee and family.
Can you believe that?
This phone call showed why Ms. Thompson's approach was failing. Even when faced with evidence that personal relationships were driving client decisions, she couldn't change her philosophy. She still thought efficiency metrics were more important than making clients feel valued. By the end of my first month at Aurora, 14 former Crest Analytics clients had either switched to our firm or were in talks about transitioning. These were not small accounts. They represented over 60% of Crest Analytics' annual revenue. Aurora was thriving beyond our wildest expectations, while Crest Analytics was facing the worst client retention crisis in its history. The most satisfying part wasn't the money or the professional success. It was knowing that Ms. Thompson had created this situation herself by refusing to value what clients really wanted. 2 months after I left, I heard that Mr. Johnson had called an emergency board meeting to address the client retention crisis. Crest Analytics was facing layoffs, reduced operations, and the possibility of being sold to a larger firm. Ms. Thompson was scrambling to explain how the company had lost most of its major accounts in just 8 weeks. At first, she tried to blame me for the client defections, but the timeline didn't support her claims. Clients were leaving because they preferred working with someone who treated them as individuals, not because of anything I had done. The board investigation revealed what I could have told them months ago. Clients choose consulting partners based on trust, communication quality, and feeling valued, not on how quickly their calls are processed. 3 months after I left, Mr. Johnson called me personally. He said they were considering a strategic restructuring and asked if Aurora would be interested in acquiring Crest Analytics' remaining clients and possibly hiring some of their staff. He also mentioned that they were evaluating their leadership approach in the client relations department. Reading between the lines, it was clear that Ms. Thompson's position was in jeopardy. Towards the end of the call, he asked, "What would it take to bring you back to Crest as Director of Client Relations? We're prepared to offer significant compensation increases and complete autonomy over relationship management strategies." The irony was amazing. 3 months after watching my work get deleted, I was being recruited back to implement the same approach I had been using, but at a much higher salary and with full authority over the department that had rejected me. I thanked him but told him I was very happy at Aurora. Aurora had understood the value of personal client relationships from the start, while Crest had only learned it the hard way. 6 months after leaving Crest Analytics, I was promoted to senior partner at Aurora. The clients who had followed me became the foundation for our most successful year in company history. Meanwhile, Crest Analytics went through the strategic restructuring Mr. Johnson had mentioned. They laid off 30% of their staff, sold their largest office, and ultimately merged with a competitor that valued efficiency over personal relationships. Ms. Thompson was not retained during the merger. I learned through professional networks that she was having trouble finding a new job because her last role had ended during a major client retention crisis. Potential employers were understandably hesitant to hire someone whose management approach had led to such a significant revenue loss, especially in client-facing roles. I didn't feel any pleasure in her difficulties. My satisfaction came from knowing that the principles she had mocked and rejected were now recognized as essential for sustainable business success in our industry. Every consulting firm was investing in personal client relationship strategies, and every professional development program emphasized the importance of treating clients as individuals. Today, 2 years after that fateful day in the conference room, I'm leading the client relations division of one of the fastest growing consulting firms in our region. Our success is built on the principle that Ms. Thompson rejected, that business relationships thrive when clients feel valued, understood, and personally connected to their service providers. Every day, I work with clients who appreciate having their personal details remembered and their business challenges addressed with genuine care. And every day, I'm reminded that the best revenge against those who undervalue your work is to prove them wrong through your continued success elsewhere. Sometimes, the most satisfying revenge is just letting the natural consequences of someone's bad decisions play out while you build something better. If this story resonates with you, I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments. And if you enjoyed this tale of workplace revenge, please like this video and subscribe for more stories like this.